I can't sleep. I just can't sleep. I have to do videos because this video, I think I figured it out.
Yeah, boy.
Maybe not all parts, but some parts. It's starting to make sense now. I think that Oda doing a whole new power system in the story is ridiculous. I was gonna say another R word, but that'll get me demonetized. However, the more I thought about it, okay, it may not be a whole new power system, but something that we've already seen before in the story, just now for the first time, we're actually getting it highlighted on. It's actually getting spotlight properly so through Emu. And this, my friends, my ladies, my gentlemen, is Omen. Omen. Because I don't know if we're gonna get this, let's say, in the cover for the Viz version of the chapter, the official version of the chapter. But in the scan version, there is a translator note which blew me away. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I was worried, I was sweating. I mean, I'm always sweating, obviously. But this one really caught my attention. And I quote, read as Omen, but the kanji parallels Haki and can also be read as Maki. Not Maki Oze from Fire Force, not Maki Zainin from JJK, but Maki as in demonic aura. Now, that right there is insane because there are various things in the story that you could argue allude to demonic aura always being there, but we never really noticed it, or let's say could define it as demonic aura up until potentially today. As of the chapter One Piece, let me dive into it, okay? Because there are levels to the game. There are levels to this madness. Haki in conjunction with Maki could actually fill in the gaps of the Haki power system itself, which sounds crazy, but that's what could be going on here. So first of all, this could just be something that pertains to Emu and Emu specifically, potentially Emu's ilk as well. And all you gotta do is look at the feats. When Emu does Omen, he makes the OK sign with his hands and then a fire appears with an OK sign and hits Zoro in the face immediately. Now, why the OK sign? Because the OK sign looked like this. It's a 6, mark of the beast, or Mu, E-Mu. The number that is parallel to the demonic, and Emu is all about that demonic activity. So you see the flame appear, and it's a black flame, and it hits Zoro right in the face. Emu does call off the fingers of Gerd, the leg of Stansen, which was crazy beforehand, don't get me wrong, but the main thing here is what Emu does with the power Omen. So Omen, again, number one, we saw what happened with Zoro, gets deaded. Number two is Hyruden. Emu does 2 OK signs as Hyruden comes down with its axe swing. You have an OK sign like this and then one like this. And he fires off some sort of weird cannon from his 2 OK signs and then it annihilates Hyruden. After that, we see the same thing when he breaks the ice around Gunko, which is like unthawable ice. And then finally, he arrives at Sanji, where number 3, we get to see him have black lightning and black fire on a kick with Sanji with another big explosion, and you have the black fire around the explosion. And then Jinbei specifically notes to the black fire. Furthermore, when the Holy Knights get their omens, what is it essentially? It's a black flaming halo or disc behind their backs and heads, and it kind of just hovers there. So that I think is very indicative as what Omen is in a sense. And then you can see how when the Omen is behind and above Summers gets way stronger, and he can dart away at the same speed as Emu, the same velocity. He could not do that before, as far as we knew, and now he can. He's been supercharged via the Omen ring. Does that look familiar to you? Some folks are saying, I think rightfully so, that we see those guys in the mural with the halo rings above them. Those could be omens. True, I won't deny that. But when it comes to the effectiveness of supercharging the Holy Knights with Omen flaming rings, it's also very similar to what? The Lunarians. The Lunarians have what? Floating embers behind their backs and heads, which supercharges them. It helps them have insane toughness and physique, and then when they turn it off, they have hyper speed. But when it's on again, they are insanely tough and durable. They're like unkillable. Supercharged flames behind the Lunarians' back, supercharged flaming disc are on the Holy Knights' backs and heads. It's the same principle as the Lunarians, the land of the gods' innate powers. And only people that are Covenant users, let's say of the Abyssal or the Depths version variety, only they are allowed to use Omen rings outside of Emu. That's probably the safest bet. And remember the words, the wise words of Lilith in chapter 1065. In that chapter, she explains how fire, specifically fire, can be converted into all types of energy. Oda loves his fire. He has a garden variety, a cornucopia of different fire utilizations in the story and how they function in the world of One Piece. He has the fire of the Phoenix, which has regeneration fire. He has the flaming clouds, which can lift up objects and things and people. He has the mother flame fire, which is like nuclear fusion. Now you have demonic fire, right? But what's also very important here too, undeniably, is the fact that someone like Scopper Gabon is able to sense this unusual Haki. He's never sensed Haki like this before, even in God Valley. And this could refer to various things. Number one, it could refer to the amount of Haki that Imu is utilizing. That could be one reason or one of many reasons. Number two is that it seems like Peas in a Pod, this Omen fire is also in conjunction with the lightning. And then the Sanji situation is evident of that. When he arrives at Sanji's location, there's a ring of black fire and lightning. The ones that we've seen the elders use to touch down, and also the Holy Knights too. The thing that's tied to the void. Omen can come from the void. They're able to utilize, or even able to utilize that power of the void and then share that power with everybody else. And Omen is one of the main byproducts of the void. That's why whenever they travel from place to place, we see those gigantic black fiery lightning bolts. This Haki seems to be in tandem with this black fire, and that could be a natural byproduct of Maki. That'd be important because in the same vein as regular Haki, so armament and observation Haki, where all living things in the world have these Haki categories, all of them, it could be the case here where armament Haki effects, even observation Haki effects potentially, can come from this combination of black lightning and fire, but they're done a different way. You could damage a Logia different user because you still have Maki, a variation of Haki. And that's very interesting too, because we know that at least when it comes to, say, armored Haki, one of the byproducts of armored Haki is what? Soul. And why is that important? Because I want to go to number 3 here as to why Gabon has never felt Haki like this before. It could be because of the nature of the Haki itself. Haki is at its root will. And the will of the Maki user could be one of great maliciousness, one of great deviancy, of pure evil. And the reason why I talk about that is because in this chapter, Jinbei has a particular line that specifies the importance of the black fire. But recall what Jinbei said right before Saint Saturn touched down in chapter 1094 during the Egghead Island arc. He said, "What is this unearthly presence?" This unearthly presence is the word that he used to signify Saturn's arrival. When Saturn arrives, what do you see? The black fire and the lightning of the void manifesting as he teleports in on the island in his gigantic Yuki form. Again, these powers seem to stem from Imu. When Imu is running around Elbaf, Imu is probably exuding a Haki very similar and on a much higher level of that sort of unearthly, unnatural sort of presence. That presence that doesn't seem to be of this world, which is kind of similar to what we see, let's say, the Dami reverse side. When you get Dami reversed, your constitution, arguably your soul, flips, and then you become more of a demonic nature. When Chopper hits the giants, what comes out of them? Like demon, demonic souls, right? And this is now where we kind of branch out, and I'm specifically looking at guys like, number 1, Zoro. Yes, Zoro did get dissed by Imu, true, but I'm pretty sure every cat has heard the theories about Zoro and his powers. Where Zoro, when he goes to King Hell State, he has the lightning, but he also has those green embers, those green wisp around his sword. What are those? What are those indeed? There are theories, not confirmed obviously. There are theories though that the green embers are separate from Haki. I myself have done videos as to what the green embers could be if they're not Haki related. And the key thing here I have always touted to is soul. When you look at how when Emu arrived, he kind of gave life to the inanimate objects, the buildings around him. They became like Big Mom homies, but in a demonic twist. Soul, life force and soul, One Piece kind of share similarities in that sense. The life force, the soul of these individuals is in some way altered. It is denatured. It is unearthly. It is unusual, as if it came from another plane of existence. Now, I could go into Film Red, but there is number 2, another person that has powers that maybe stem from this sort of plane. Brook specifically gets the winds of the Netherworld. And Brook was alone on a mountaintop for the longest up until someone named Ethan Venus Juro started doing the same thing that Brook did, where he was able to cut with extreme frost and precision. These are the only 2 swordsmen in the series right now that can do this unique attribute. Why is that? The one thing that they share very likely is the difference of their souls versus the norm, where Brook's soul went to the Netherworld and came back to find its body. Going into the Netherworld, this other plane of existence allowed for some of that to stick with Brook, and he can use that power, tap into those powers. If this plane of existence is a real thing, unearthly, as Jinbei said when Saturn arrived, it's an unearthly plane of existence that gave Brook the winds of the world, and maybe even in Brook's case, it also applies to the void. If the devil's fruit is able to tap into the void, the nether realm, the alternate plane of existence, and utilize energies from that plane of existence, whether it be Haki or Maki, which share similarities, this could explain as to how Brook and maybe Zoro and how Ethan could do what they do. It all stems from the same origin, the void, and the devil's fruit can utilize those powers freely. When we see Diamond Versailles, it could literally be them going into a sort of Stranger Things world, a parallel dimension, or the void, if you would, where demons exist in the void, and then they can take over their souls as they flip, right? When the holy knights and so on, when they teleport to one place to another place, they are traveling through the void, through the netherworld in some sense, and getting from point A to point B just like that. When Zoro met the Grim Reaper and he was about to die, when we see Zoro in that place and he couldn't move, that could have been not just the netherworld, but the void that is also of the same place that Emu and company get their powers from. Yeah, it's starting to add up. It's, of course, a theory. I can't confirm nothing right now, but what I can say is this though. Even though this Maki may have attributes of fire, which I think in a way also may confirm the possibility of Haki's ties to fire, where there have been a lot of theories for many years explaining that Haki could make fire, right? The existence of Omen may only solidify that possibility and could explain why Gaban is so thrown off, because this is so far from the typical Haki that he's used to. Not even on God Valley did Emu utilize Omen to this level, not even close. He just controls Saturn as he was that shadowy figure. The real Emu of Nerona is a whole different matter, a whole different beast, and is genuinely utilizing unearthly techniques, which could also explain potentially why there's a timer on Emu. That's why Emu can't stay for too long, because the techniques are so unearthly, they're so abnormal. You can see like Emu saying, hurry Summers, you don't have much time. Emu's in a rush, and beforehand the elders were saying that it wasn't a good idea to go to lower world because you would ... So there's something going on with Emu's powers and it being in the lower world for some weird reason. It could be the case here where like literally Emu is rejected in some way by the world itself, which is why it lives a place so high up, because that rejection process doesn't affect it when it's that high up, potentially. But when it goes down to the lower world, it's like, I'm starting to feel it. because the world itself is rejecting me in some way because my powers are unearthly, they are unnatural. During the Rob Lucci and Luffy fight, Vegapunk was speaking and he was kind of saying how the powers that they wield could come from another plane of existence. And even having a timer, access to the void and all these things could be signs, like genuine signs of this unearthly type of energy, power. So this is why I think it's so important, because it's now starting to hit on certain notes that could best explain Haki, certain power systems, whether it be soul or Haki or life force related, and so on and so forth. It is to be feared, which is why Imu's trying to, let's say, do things like a massive flood to raise the level of certain areas much higher than usual, things of that sort, because the further away it is from the world's core or center, the safer it is, potentially, one. And then two is that we do know at least that Joy Boy's Haki is a threat to someone like Imu, because Joy Boy's Haki knot consists of what? The greatest of Haki, according to Joy Boy himself in chapter 1122. Within a meth contained the greatest of Haki, quote unquote. So if Joy Boy's Haki, what he put inside of him was the greatest of Haki, even though Imu has insane Maki, we don't know if Imu can actually utilize the greatest of Haki. And this is where the parallel between Haki and Maki also come into contact too. Because if Maki also, let's say, comes with a certain sinister otherworldly presence, the keyword here being sinister, could it then do things like the Joy Boy Haki knot, where when it was unleashed, the Joy Boy Haki knot was on a tremendous scale, and it wasn't malicious towards any of MF's allies. But the Maki, the Omen, appears to be nothing but malicious, nothing but savagery and sinister and so on, demonic, right? The complete reverse of what the Haki of Joy Boy was doing, the greatest Haki. And we even saw Imu on its knees when it experienced the Joy Boy Haki knot. We saw the beast, quote unquote, the beast of the void, the powers that Imu granted to the 5 elders. They got powered down via Joy Boy's Haki knot. If they are parallel to each other, Haki and Maki, it also explains why someone like Chopper can counter Imu. Haki is the power system of the world. Haki is the natural power system. Observation, armament, and conquerors is the natural power system that all living things, especially humans, can gain access to across the board, with conquerors being a select few, obviously. What is Chopper's devil fruit? The human fruit. Chopper's ability is in some way symbolic, counter the otherworldly powers of the devils, because his powers are more worldly, since they are powers that are in lockstep with humans, and humans can all access Haki, which could then counter the Maki. You see what I'm saying here? It gets tricky. It's not all set in stone. The road is there. This is being built. And Oda could mess this up. It could be all over the place. Who knows? But I can kind of see the vision where Oda is taking this. Again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But after that chapter, which, by the way, if you don't know, I did do my chapter live reaction to 1180 on my Cole Requiem YouTube channel. After that chapter and that title, I was thinking, I couldn't sleep. Like right now, it's 5 a.m. I could not sleep. I will now though, okay? So let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. If you enjoy your boy's video content, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'ma catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye-bye.